Here are tips to help increase your battery life for your iPhone. Now, this video is going to be very useful for those with older devices that need to squeak out some extra battery to last throughout the day, or if you're experiencing any excessive battery drain due to something like software bugs, some tips in this video could help you out. Now, our first tip is one that's my personal favorite, and that's low power mode. You can turn on low power mode manually, but the thing is I rarely remember to turn on low power mode at all. But after discovering this very useful Siri shortcut, low power mode just comes on automatically once your phone hits a certain percentage. So if you go into Siri Shortcuts app, tap on the automation tab, and then tap on the plus button in the upper right corner. You'll want to create a personal automation. Then scroll all the way down until you see battery level, and using the slider, just adjust what percentage you want low power mode to activate at, and then tap next. Go ahead and search for set low power mode in the actions list, tap next, and just before you hit done, be sure to turn off Ask Before Running, otherwise this shortcut will not automatically turn on until you answer the prompt. That's it, just go ahead and hit done and you're all set, and for me at 30%, low power mode automatically turns on. Our next tip is that you want to make sure you have optimized battery charging turned on in efforts to reduce battery aging. This will have your iPhone learn from your daily charging routine and will eventually finish charging past 80% once it realizes when you might need it. To do this, just go into the Settings app. Under Battery, you'll see Battery Health, and then turn on Optimized Battery Charging. Speaking of 80%, ideally that's the kind of number that you'd want to avoid charging your phone overnight. This is a pretty simple tip. If you see your phone at around 80%, really it might be good to just avoid charging at anything over 50%, but 80% is a good rule of thumb. If you see your phone at 80%, just don't plug it in. And then in the morning, if you realize I'm gonna need my full day's worth of battery, maybe while you're in the shower or something, you can just top off and charge then. But you don't wanna leave your phone charging all night, especially if you have that much battery. If you find your iPhone to be just draining battery at an unusually excessive level, go into Battery Health, which is under Settings and under Battery, and check on what apps are using what kind of battery, what percentage of battery. If you see something that's crazy, like the music app's using 40% of your battery, and you aren't even using the music app at that current moment in time, then there's most likely some software bug causing excessive battery drain. This happens, and the easiest fix is honestly just to restart your iPhone. Go ahead and press on the side and volume button. Just go ahead and hold that until you see the slider to turn off your iPhone. Turn off your iPhone, give it 30 seconds, and then hold that side button again to turn it back on. This has fixed my weird software bug battery nearly 100% of the time, and it's probably just another good rule of thumb to just turn your iPhone off at least once a week to make sure that everything resets and is performing as it should. Another good tip to save battery that you probably already know, but we need to drill it in people's heads so that you don't lose battery for no reason, is to use Wi-Fi whenever possible. Wi-Fi just uses less battery than being on LTE or especially 5G. Another thing to try to avoid are widgets. Now, we all wanted widgets and we got them, so you don't have to not use them, but some widgets specifically pull a lot of data at all times. You'll want to limit using those as much as possible. Widgets like the news or weather are constantly pulling data to try to give you the latest news or weather updates at all times, and this is just going to drain your battery over something like the music widget, which isn't constantly refreshing in the background. All right, so the rest of these tips I'm not going to explain as much. They're just kind of something to do quickly. These are settings that are probably unnecessary for a lot of new iPhone owners out there, or for people who just don't really care and your battery life is fine for you. But if you really want to maximize battery life, go ahead and follow these tips. We will start with location services. Head into Settings, Privacy, and under Location Services, the good tip here is just to turn off any apps that you don't think are necessary to be tracking your location at all times. And definitely try to limit precision tracking to only the apps that really need precise tracking. Speaking of locations, you'll want to turn off significant locations as well as maybe clear that history too if you don't want this on. So you're still under the same section in Privacy and Location Services. Scroll down to System Services and then select Significant Locations. So just turn this off and clear your history if you don't want those notifications anymore. One last location-based thing to turn off is location alerts. This is in the same system service section that we've been in our last tip, and you'll see a few other toggles like location-based alerts. I'd probably just turn off all of these things except for maybe HomeKit and Find My iPhone, but at a minimum, you can save a lot of battery by just toggling off most of these alerts or just do the location one that we talked about. Your iPhone will send a lot of data and analytics back to Apple. And while that actually might be helpful for the developers at Apple to kind of help, fix a lot of things that could be going wrong or maybe take your user experience into consideration, it could also take a toll on your battery. And so if you're in a pinch, turn off iPhone Analytics. This is located in the same System Services section under Privacy. Next up is background app refresh. We should definitely turn off as many or all of these apps in order to save battery. You can head into Settings, General, and under Background App Refresh, just toggle a lot or maybe all of these off. And as you can see here, Apple themselves explained that this could help save battery, so this is probably a pretty big one. Notifications can be a huge battery killer. Try to limit or turn off as many notifications from apps that are not necessary to your everyday use. So just head into Settings, Notifications, and just go through the apps that might not be super important and either limit or turn off notifications entirely. Along the same lines as notifications, the vibrations that come with those notifications can also reduce battery life. In the settings under sound and haptics, you can probably turn off vibrate on ring, especially if you never have your ringer on, and maybe even on silent, just depending on your preference. For me, I keep vibrate on silent on because I definitely never have my ringer on, and so I need something to alert that a notification came through, but this works really well if you limit your notifications like we talked about in our last tip. Under Mail in the Settings app, if you go to Accounts, you'll see Fetch New Data. To save a lot of battery, turn off Push for anything that you don't need constantly retrieving new data in the background, and maybe set your fetch to be something like manual or every hour. This means if you're under manual, whenever you head into the Mail app, for example, you'll get your new emails when you open the app and not in the background constantly refreshing or reducing battery. Speaking of things happening automatically, this is another one I like to keep on, but if you really need to get the most of your battery life, you might want to turn off auto updates and downloads. Head into Settings and under App Store, turn off app updates and app downloads. You should also turn off this section in cellular data as well, so that you're not downloading apps and updates automatically while on cellular data, which will again impact your battery life. Siri can actually have an impact on your battery life as well, at least some of the certain features that you probably don't even use. And so if you don't use them, you should definitely turn them off. And those settings, we'll start with number 1, head into the settings section and under Siri, you'll turn off Hey Siri. And then as a bonus, you should also turn off these Siri suggestions too, or maybe some of them, unless of course you need them on. Dark mode definitely helps reduce battery drain, especially iPhones with OLED panels, as the screen will not turn on portions of the display that is lit up. And so if it's dark, you're not using battery life because that part of the screen is actually off. And since dark mode makes everything darker, well, then you're gonna help save some battery. Finally, you're gonna want to turn off Raise to Wake. Every time you pick up your iPhone, your screen illuminates, and over time, that's just gonna accumulate and reduce battery life. So just head into Settings and under Display and Brightness, toggle off Raise to Wake. And that's it. Obviously, some of these might be extreme or unnecessary for non-power users or people who are not using iPhones that are a little bit older than something like the 11 or iPhone 12. And if you just really wanna get the most out of your battery, then just try out some of these tips. I'll also leave a link in the description down below to some other tips that we might not have touched on. So be sure to check out that. And obviously let me know in the comments if you have some tips that might not be well known or are obvious. Let me know those tips in the comments down below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.